Hello again, it's me, that guy with the YouTube channel, sounding depressed as usual because I'm back doing another one of these damn things. Anyways, today, you're gonna love this. We're doing a nice little review of a big boy, and that big boy is Bandai U-Killer motherfucking Saurus. So starting with details, since I don't have the tag for this thing, I'm just gonna go out right now and say it. This thing is gorgeous, and it is Bandai at their finest with this sculpt and paint. Like, just look at all the detail on his hand here, just all the scales. Check that out. Got detail on his knuckles. Mine is a little scuffed. He's a little worse for wear, for as far as U-killersauruses go, but that's the nature of buying a figure this rare for a price that's actually stomachable. Anyways, see all the detailing on the scales on his arm, inside of his hand. You got this nice brown color, just beautiful sculpting in there. See coming up his arm, not really showing up that well, but see all the nice sculpting on his scales on that part there. All the spikes. It's really hard to get the lighting right to show up in there, but there's still even more detail. All these spikes are painted. In fact, not a single one of these spikes on this entire figure is unpainted. That is how detailed this thing is. And see, just checking out his tentacles here, really nicely detailed, really long as well. See, coming down, there's this metallic blue spray going over the top of it. Get to the tip there, so you can see in there, that part is not in focus. Come on, baby, come on. There we go. Yeah, see, you got some brown in there, and it just looks so good. The pincer parts are maybe a little flat compared to the rest of the figure, but that's how they looked on the suit, and if they could have made them look any more like they did in the movie, they would probably be too fragile and break. So they did as good as they could with these parts. And they are a little soft, and yeah, they can get warped pretty bad, as you can see with this tentacle here, but that is no issue of the figure at all. See, you got the little these nice metallic magenta parts for the stinger shoot. Fuck you, get out of my face attack, whatever that's called. All this nice, gorgeous, wonderful detail. And yeah, I keep saying gorgeous, wonderful because it is. This is Bandai pulled all the stops out with this thing, and I'm kind of speechless about how great the detail is on this. See all this detailing on his chest, this brown part that looks kind of like hair. I'd have to go back and check if that actually is, but if it is, maybe it's a little soft. If not, it looks fine. Yeah, this is the U-killersaurus Choju crotch for all you ladies out there. It's got metallic blue spray on it, and it is armored, so he's good to have kids. Yeah, coming to his feet, his legs here. See all the detail on that. Just metallic blues, the blue of the vinyl, the gold is just so vibrant. And I love this thing. Nothing on the bottom of the feet, but I mean, just look at the rest of this thing and try to complain that there's no detail on the bottom of the feet. You can't. It's just so gorgeous. Showing the back, you can see all this nice detail, kind of hidden by the tentacles, but that's part of the design. You can see you got the thrusters there, which would have been nice to maybe see a little bit of black inside of those just to give depth, but I'm not complaining. You hardly ever see those anyway. Yeah, see the spikes in there. Again, they're all painted. His tail, too, even on the underside there's detailing. Then getting up to his head, you can see all the horns are just beautifully sculpted. They don't have filler in between them like some of the Ghidorahs, except down here on these kind of cheek spikes here. You can see there's a little bit of filling molded in there. Yeah, you can see all the detail. His horn there, again scuffed, but can't really do anything about that unless I want to repaint it, which I don't plan to. Yeah, you can see he has this really great snarl sculpted in there, which I love and just gives so much character to the sculpt. Inside the mouth, there's nothing really to write home about. You may be able to see it, but his tongue is painted. You can't see that at all, so just take my word on it. And then we have all the missiles for the Saurus Stinger, which are beautifully painted. It's either dry brushed in this kind of red color, and then some of the bigger ones have this gold highlight on them. Yeah, this thing, this is perfect. I hit the camera there, but this is perfect. That's all I really have to say about this thing. I don't like talking about detail in these reviews. It kind of drags on too long. So, moving to articulation on U-killersaurus, you may want to sit tight, get a spare change of underwear ready, because he offers a surprisingly high amount for one of these glorified shampoo bottles. Starting out, the arms can move up and down. Nothing super great, but as far as most figures go, his arms move up and down. The elbows also move, which is really nice, so combine that with the up and down movement, you can actually kind of get something of a pose out of them. I mean, it's not like super dynamic figure arts shit, but you can actually kind of get variation in how you have him displayed, which is more than I can say for the majority of all vinyl figures. The legs also move, which is also pretty standard. They move, yay. We also get articulation at the shins, and check this out. They're stiff, and they don't really offer a whole lot. But it's nice that they included it, I guess. The tentacles, all four of them, have 3 points, one at the base, and none of them can move 360. There's something that gets in the way. We'll look at this one here. 1 point right here, which is really stiff, and I don't recommend moving it a whole lot. Because as you can see, it's triangular, and so when you force it out of whatever position it's in, it actually starts to put pressure on the sides of the tentacles, and I don't know if you can see that there, but that's stress marks forming, and if you do that too much, you're going to rip the vinyl. And you don't want to do that with a figure like this. He'll snarl at you. The tips of the tentacles also rotate as well, and that's the same for all four of them, even these back ones, which are identical and don't really offer a whole lot with that articulation. And finally, the tail moves, which can actually go around if you move the tentacle out of the way. So, yeah, U-killersaurus is surprisingly decent for articulation. It's nothing super special, but you can actually kind of get poses out of him with his arms and tentacles, which is kind of amazing for a vinyl figure. There's also a glue seal running all the way along here for the top half of his body, but it accomplishes nothing if you break it. One thing I want to point out about U-killersaurus, which is a really nice feature on Bandai's part, and actually really thoughtful of them, is the fact that he's a much more rigid vinyl than other figures from his time, and really most figures that Bandai makes nowadays. He's kind of hard, doesn't have a whole lot of give to him in places. It's not super hard vinyl like some of the old vintage figures from like the 80s, but it's definitely noticeably harder than a lot of other figures, which is really nice because some of Bandai's earlier figures of U-killersaurus's mass, like say some of their Millennium Ghidorahs, have issues where parts of them warp, like the feet, like they bend forward under the figure's own weight and they fall, or like thin parts like the wings like to sag and droop over time. And you'd think with this big hulking mass of a figure like U-killersaurus, you'd get issues like that with the tentacles or with his feet. But you don't, because the figure's mostly hard vinyl, and really the only thing you have to worry about warping are the tentacle claws, and that's understandable because these things are paper thin. So that's really an ingenious move on Bandai's part, and it means you can have the tentacles posed outwards like this, and that's how I have this thing displayed, and they have never warped, and I've had this thing for a couple months now. So that's a pretty nice, pretty nutty, pretty cool, pretty epic inclusion on Bandai's part. Moving on to sizing, here's U-killersaurus with a variety of Ultra Hero figures. I have no idea what the hell kind of pose Cosmos is supposed to be in there. Here's U-killersaurus with a variety of other Ultra Kaiju figures. Tasty. Nice pack, too. Here he is with a few Godzillas. And of course, just for a little bit of reference here he is with the figure that has at least one repaint to go with every single person in the population of the Earth, and a figure that every single person in the population of the Earth owns. Here's our contractually obligated Wu sizing. Woo. And finally, for all you kiddies out there, just to show you how enormous this figure is, SH Monster Arts Biollante, SH Monster Arts King Ghidorah. U-killersaurus is at least as bulky as Biollante and takes up arguably more space. So overall, I don't think I really need to say that I am absolutely in love with this figure. Its sculpt is amazing, perfect, I would even go as far to say. Its paint apps are amazing, especially for a vinyl figure like this. In fact, I don't think there's a single area on this figure that's missing paint at all. Like, everywhere that should be painted is painted. The only complaint I have paint-wise is that there's kind of a black wash at the claw tip and none on the rest of the tentacle, and that's it. That's it. And that would really be my only complaint with this figure as far as anything goes. It's this beautiful. This is Bandai at their finest, and I would honestly say this is one of their best figures ever made in general as far as vinyl figure goes. Whether it's Kamen Rider, Ultraman, Godzilla, this is one of the best. As far as standard figures go, I know obviously there's higher grade stuff out there like Kaiju Hyohan and X Plus, obviously, which isn't Bandai, but still, and there's even the Sovi Spirits figures, but as far as just standard vinyl figures go, this thing is perfect. There's nothing wrong with it. I love it. It's huge. There's a surprising amount of articulation for a glorified shampoo bottle figure. I can't stop saying I love it, because I do. This thing obviously isn't cheap. I think last time I checked it sells for anywhere in the neighborhood of $100 to $200, so be very, very much ready to splash a lot of dough for this thing, because it don't come too cheap very often. I got mine for about $60, and for obvious reasons, super big scuffs and really warped tentacle tips, which I didn't really care about because the figure itself is still mostly intact and I can still appreciate it, which, yeah, you're definitely going to have to be very patient to wait for one of these to come up for $60, especially if you're shopping on eBay. You're probably never going to see one for $60. I got this off Mandarake, and they do occasionally show up for that much there, although they still usually sell for about $100 even on Mandarake. There was a reissue of this that was out around the same time as this figure, around 2008, which was basically the same paint job, except all the colors were a little more darker, a little less saturated than this one, which some people say looks better, and I would agree, but this is the one I got. And that one came in a box set, a Toys Dream Project box set, with a clear Ultraman Mebius Infinity figure, because it's the scene from the movie where he fights U-killersaurus Neo, so I guess technically that version's supposed to be U-killersaurus Neo. a very weak representation of U-killersaurus Neo. And that box set usually sells for about $200, so if you're really super impatient and your plan of attack for this bad boy here is to not wait and be smart and get a deal and save a shitload of money, you'd probably be doing yourself a favor if you just spent the $200 and got the Mebius with it instead of spent the $200 and got this big boy here on his own. So if I still gave ratings, this would be a 12 out of 7, 9 million out of 100. It's beautiful. I love it. Perfect. Wonderful. Thanks. Spark Doll, get that out of here. It's not good. Yeehaw. I got you this time.